We have another story to report that's a giant middle finger to the Supreme Court and the Hobby Lobby case. A woman named Lori Potarf and her friend Richard Lee Henderson were arrested for drug possession in Duncan, Oklahoma, and it appeared to be an open and shut possession case. But as Raw Story explains, quote, Potarf told police that she is a practicing Wiccan and she has a religious right to use crystal meth in the sacred rituals of her faith. Now, you might think, what are the cops going to do? Come on. They're going to laugh it off, they're going to throw her ass in cuffs, and they're going to bring her up on charges, right? Not so much. According to the article, they shrugged, didn't know of the implications of what she said, so in other words, they're confused that it might be true, it might not be true, and instead they focused more on Richard Lee Henderson, the person she was with, and they charged him with having drug paraphernalia, quote, a metal spoon with white residue and 2 syringes containing a small amount of clear liquid. So now there's a gray area. There's a gray area. See, what the Supreme Court tried to do with the Hobby Lobby case is thread the needle. They said, here's what our decision is. A business owner, if they're against contraception for their own religious purposes, their employees can't get that through their health insurance policy. That was more or less the ruling. If there's a religious objection from the owners or the employers, they can control the healthcare decisions when it comes to contraception for the workers. Now, why, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg pointed out at the time when she wrote a dissenting opinion, why is that beyond absurd? Because the law is based on precedent and logic. And you already threw precedent out the window when you said we're going to allow the employer to take away whatever they want from the employee because of the employer's religious beliefs. So precedent is gone. All that's left is logic. And if you apply logic, you can't say, in this case, yes, the religious feelings of the owner override the employee, because what's to stop this from broadening out further? Why can't a religious employer say, as many religions believe, we're against vaccines. If you work for us, you can't have vaccinations. Hey, our religion says you can never cut your hair or shave your face, so never cut your hair or shave your face if you work for us. Hey, our religion says that we're against all modern medicine. We believe in faith healing because we're hardcore believers in a very fundamentalist version of Christianity. So you can never go to the doctor. We don't have an insurance plan, and that's okay because this is our beliefs, and if you work for us, you have to abide by our beliefs. You could stretch this out as far as you want. Hey, it's our religious beliefs that tattoos and piercings are immoral, as is in the Bible. So you have tattoos and piercings, you're fired. We're firing you because of personal decisions you made about your own body as a free human being in the United States of America. Now, not any longer. And this is a perfect example of it right here. In fact, there were cases about this previously that the Supreme Court heard in the 90s where it was, I believe, a Native American tribe stepped forward and said, well, one of our people was arrested for taking peyote, but peyote actually is part of our religious traditions. And in that case, it really was. It wasn't just some bullshit excuse. And the Supreme Court at the time said, no, you have to abide by secular laws because we can't have anybody's religious belief overriding the laws. But then Hobby Lobby came around and said no to that case. Said, no, actually, we can. We can have people hiding behind the veil of religion, and they say, I'm going to not abide by these secular laws. We just did a story the other week. A sovereign citizen, so a far-right anti-government extremist, said, I have a religious right not to pay my taxes. I have a religious right to a 0% tax rate. You can't tell me it's not my deeply held religious belief. Here, I'll point to one obscure Bible passage, and that's that. You can't tell me that what you're telling me my religion is wrong. You can't do that. I have religious freedom, and my religious freedom overrides me paying taxes. Why is that guy wrong if you take the logic of Hobby Lobby? He's not wrong. Why can't I say, or why can't a good Christian who actually abides by the message of Jesus say, I have a moral problem and an ethical problem with war. I have a problem with 57% of our discretionary spending going to the military-industrial complex. I have a problem with us being in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, and all these places, Syria right now. So what are we going to do? I'm just not going to pay my taxes because it's my religious belief that I'm against all forms of violence. That includes my tax dollars funding violence. Why can't somebody say that? If you take the logic of Hobby Lobby, somebody can say that. Again, they tried to thread the needle and say, back all the other examples and say, no, it only applies for contraception. But why? That's not a convincing argument. You can't just say that. You can't just say that. Hey, only for contraception can you have the religious owner impose their beliefs on the employee. You can't do that. Again, because logically, nobody could say, well, you could do it for that, but not vaccines. You could do it for that, but not how you dress. You can do it for that, but not drugs. And here we have another example where there's now this legal gray area where people are going to try to exploit it because you opened Pandora's box when you ruled the way you did in Hobby Lobby.